Good morning, and thank you for joining our last webinar in the series from SPEC Innovations, How to MBSE. We're going through the entire system lifecycle in this series. Last time we showed you verification and validation. Today you will learn how to program management. My name is Elizabeth Steiner, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. First, let's go over some housekeeping. During the presentation, feel free to send us questions, and we will get them answered in the questions and answer part of the webinar. You can also interact with us on LinkedIn through the Innoslate user group or through Twitter using the handle @Innoslate. The webinar is being recorded and we will make it available to you after the live presentation. So be sure to keep an eye out for it in your inbox. Now I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Dr. Steve Dam. Dr. Dam is the president and founder of SPEC Innovations, as well as one of our training instructors. He has been involved with research, experiments, operations analysis, software development, systems engineering, and training for more than 40 years. He has also received an Expert Systems Engineering Professional Certification from INCOSE. He currently is applying systems engineering techniques to various DoD, DOE, and commercial projects. Feel free to send Dr. Dam any questions throughout this webinar using the questions panel on the right. And now I'll hand over controls to Dr. Dam and we will get started.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. So what we're going to talk about today is program management, and a lot of people don't see that program management and systems engineering go together, but in fact they do. They go very well together, and there's quite a bit of overlap between the two, and we're going to discuss some of that as we go through today. So we're going to talk a little bit about how do different people view systems and program management, particularly our customers. Some of our key customers, and then talk a little about the processes, about program management processes and how valuable they are, particularly this idea of model-based program management. And then we're going to talk a little about how to use the Innoslate's new program management view. It's not new, we've had it out for a while, but again, it's fairly new to people. And then talk about conducting model-based reviews. And we have talked about that a number of times before, and we'll just kind of hit the highlights, and then hopefully we'll have some time to demonstrate it more directly in the tool. So program management in Department of Defense, if you go to the Defense Acquisition Guidebook, the DAG, has chapter 1 is program management. It's all about program management. In fact, then they get into systems engineering and other aspects of acquisition. So the key is that program managers have to synchronize amongst the requirements, budgeting, and execution. And that's that first graphic on the left that has the little circles, those little ovals, the different systems that they have for that. So being a program manager in DoD, that's kind of one of the key thoughts of it is balancing these different systems that they have in the process. If you notice, they're very organizationally focused. In the top right, you see a panel with the organization charts that all the way from Defense Acquisition Board, which is very high up, down into IPTs, and finally into the program management environments itself. So a large organization like I'm assuming the MDA there is Milestone Decision Authority. Okay, so that's not Missile Defense Agency, but so it's that higher level kind of look at the problem. Very focused on scheduling, of course, is another very important aspect of what they're looking at DoD. And you see these kinds of horse blanket kind of schedule charts out there, and they're all very pretty and very interesting and very difficult to keep up because they're usually done in PowerPoint. Painful. Another, of course, big area for Department of Defense is risk management. So there's a lot of risk analysis and things like that go on in it. So that's the kind of a DoD picture. Again, read into that chapter and you'll see a lot more. I'm just touching the surface of it so you can kind of get some of the key, what I think some of the key elements of it are. In NASA, another customer of ours, they have a very interesting approach. It's set up with phases. They have very structured milestones and milestone reviews. DoD does too, but again, they even go at that higher level, that they jump right into this project level in their guidebook. And again, there is a nice guidebook that they have for this. It's the NASA Spaceflight Program and Project Management Handbook. So highly recommend take a look at that if you want to see it. Their number one thing is safety. Everything they do is man critical, and they've had loss of life a number of times, and high profile. When they lose a life, it's extremely high profile, and it's not expected. It's not part of the job really in NASA. Whereas in Department of Defense, it is. Life and death is just part of that business. Of course, risk goes hand in hand with safety and risk analysis, and of course cost analysis. There's a heavy emphasis on cost. NASA is not a well-funded agency by comparison to many others, and so they have to make as much money as much out of every nickel they have. They do have very well-defined milestones, exit criteria, and that's another thing I think it's very valuable. It's helped them tremendously in managing projects effectively. But they don't have an equivalent to the DoD adaptive framework. That's one of the things I think that's kind of interesting in DoD now. They recognize that acquisition cycle isn't just one simple milestone chart like this. It's many different types of things depending on what you are, whether you have urgent needs. It's software has different kinds of acquisition cycles, and so that's, I think, a very interesting factor too. I didn't mention that on the previous slide, but that is something to think about and look at. That idea of tailoring to what the real need is. Okay, so well, most of us are contractors, probably. Many people in the audience here are contractors, and so what do we do with it? Well, we take these kinds of programs and work with them, and then we start creating plans. So we'll go through the planning process, and we need to organize, our own process set so we can work with those and meet up with our customer process sets as well. In SPEC Innovations, we have a set of processes we've used for quite a number of years. Again, multiple tools over the years. And the key element of our process is what we call the SE knowledge base, or the PM SE knowledge base. You'll hear me talk about it more that way here in the future, because really that's what we're looking at, is that whole, how do we integrate the program management and systems engineering activities together so it's one coherent group working together. They have their own differences, and of course you keep those, but the differences are relatively minor, really. So key is project planning. That's a major part of what we look at, and so we have those work processes. We're going to go in these in more detail in a little bit. But by using Innoslate as my knowledge base, I've been able to expand and do a lot more, particularly in the program management aspect of capturing that and integrating that and creating that integrated program management systems engineering environment. By the way, there's a working group in COSI on looking at PM SE integration. So if you're interested in that group's very active. We also use it to conduct analyses and create the necessary reports. I mean, that whole idea of having this knowledge base is now I have a quick place I can go find things, find out what's going on. I can take the results and then easily and quickly create products out of it. So you can provide them to your customer and effectively keep it well managed. So for this series, for what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about how program management fits into the system life cycle. And of course, it fits in all the way across the life cycle, all the way through it. And we have many views and ways to use support program management. A lot of people don't think about the document side of it. You're creating reports, you're creating plans, you're doing all this documentation. So having a documents view is extremely helpful in the tool. And requirements. So if you look at what do you get from your customer, well, you're getting requirements from them. So you want to analyze those requirements, understand them, make sure they make sense to you, ask questions, get decisions, all these kinds of things that you're trying to do with it. Modeling, we're going to get into that a little bit more. If you look at a lot of your processes can easily be modeled. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about model-based program management, is we're looking at the models of the processes and how can we improve them over time. Of course, we have to make sure they work properly. And that's where simulation comes into play. Because if you don't have a simulator that can actually execute those, and by the way, you need probably both discrete event and Monte Carlo, because Monte Carlo helps you understand your risk in terms of cost and schedule in particular. So this is a great tool for that. A lot of people will use Microsoft Project to crystal ball for that kind of activity. But again, we have it all integrated in one tight package with the modeling side of it together, which you don't get out of the Microsoft Project side of things. If you go up to the top right, it's with Sapatra. So again, as you're building your processes, you can start applying those to look at, do you have available operational time windows? If you do, if a process has to be accomplished within a certain amount of time, then this will allow you to do the analysis to see if your procedure can be affected during that time. So again, very useful for that purpose. And of course, some of the standard program management tools that you're looking for, like risk analysis, timeline analysis, and cost analysis, we have all those built within the tool. So you can see how this is that integrated program management SE knowledge base that allows us to capture all the information we need in one place that we can easily then create our products and results from. So let's go into a little more detail about creating the program management plan, because I think that was the first thing we were going to do, and we said ... and more. So let's talk about program management plan. So creating our program management plan in documents view. So we actually, again, have templates for this. I believe we have one of the templates we have is the NASA template for that. So you're happy, that's a good place to start, particularly for any kind of NASA programs, but I found that to be useful for almost any program. So that's something you might want to consider. But if you already have an outline or something you like to use for program management plans and things like that, or you have something that's a standard for your organization, not a problem. Just you can create your own template for that and use that every time. So again, you can update those and meet your specific needs. And what I find is it's really a good place to just kind of start, because now I can start filling in what I do know, and then I can start seeing, well, wait a second, I've got holes here. What do I need to add that information? If I do, I can go off and start gathering that information. And it really provides a nice container for me to capture the information. So, you know, people like documents because they're easy to understand and we're used to using them. So that's why we have a documents view. It gives us that ability then to create that information for the customer and for ourselves. Another thing you want to do in the process is identify the project goals and requirements. And of course, one of the things we can do is import the SOW or the PWS, again, statement of work, performance work statement. Those kind of flip sides of each other in terms of there are nuances, differences, but they're fundamentally the same kind of document. And so, we treat that as a requirements document. We can use the import analyzer to import it. Then we can go through and baseline it and then conduct analysis on it to see if it makes sense to us. And a lot of times you're going to find very quickly that the statements that are created are overly complex. There's many requirements actually built into a statement, a paragraph that's in one of these SOWs. So you have to go through and do some analysis to understand what's going on. Maybe you take a portion of it, break it out, and put it in the rationale field even, because that makes more sense to have it there. So, but again, that's part of the analysis you want to do. In that process, again, your customer may or may not have been very explicit about what the goals and objectives were. That's often not 100% clear in some of these things, even though it should be. So you want to help refine those, and again, make sure you're in agreement with your customer about that. Again, as I said a little earlier, you want to put questions in front of them and then get decisions and then capture those decisions. Those decisions are very important downstream. First of all, one of the problems is 6 months downstream, people have forgotten why they made decisions and what decision was made. Well, guess what? If you've captured it and you know it and you have it there, it's available for you to reference and be able to easily go back and say, oh yeah, that's why we did that. And if things have changed, you can say, oh, now I can make a better decision, maybe a different decision, but that's okay. You at least can document it and track it and see what you're doing there. Another thing that can help you is what is commonly called CYA, right? You know, if your customer says, well, I didn't tell you to do that, and you've got it documented as a decision, and they had agreed to it, and it's clear, and you have all the information, like you captured the email or things like that in there too, that approved it, then you can put that in front of them and say, well, actually you did, here it is. Would you like to make a different decision now? So that's another conversation you can have to elegantly work with your customers on. The other thing that happens a lot, particularly at least if you're working in the Department of Defense, is and with the military branches, they rotate through frequently. And so oftentimes you start a project with one person and another person shows up and they have a really totally different vision of it and they want to change everything. Boy, you better have a lot of documentation behind it to show, hey, here's why we're going down this path. That was a blind alley. We already went down that one. You know, so this is another thing this whole knowledge base can help you organize and manage properly. Of course, the key thing is performing analyses and adding them to the program management plan. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is look at costs and schedule. So cost baselining is a very critical part of it. We have a number of different forms for that, and we're going to talk about the processes more in the next section. So I don't want to belabor that too much. So let me focus a little bit more on some of these other things. By the way, you can also create timeline diagrams to show the overall schedule. So if you're more used to using like a project and you want to do timeline diagrams, and by the way, if you use a Macintosh, project doesn't work on the Macintosh, right? So some of us who like the Mac, you know, we need another tool, and Innoslate does work on a Mac because I'm using it right now. Anyway, so timeline diagrams can do, so you like that approach with milestones and not milestone chart, things like that. By the way, we're doing a significant upgrade on that in 4.7, so I just want to be aware that that's going to get improved significantly. But right now, I've been using it for a number of years for managing our projects and working through it that way. If you got a fairly simple project, that may be good enough. Maybe I don't have to model all my processes. But if I get a more complex project, then I want to model the processes. Also, the work breakdown structure, we can create that using a hierarchy of the cost elements, and you see that in the background. And you notice in our cost hierarchy, you can add what the labels are and the attributes, and so you can see what those values are. And I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of small, but it have amount and units and the category in there are the different attributes I'm showing on that diagram. So again, this lets me work with that. And then there's a roll-up capability, if you're not aware of it, in the hierarchy chart now. So you can roll up the static dollar numbers. I prefer, when I do model, I do a dynamic roll-up in the simulator, and that gives me a much more accurate analysis of the actual costs. Another thing you can do is risk analysis. I'm not showing that here. We have risk information, risk matrices, risk burn down charts, things like that. We do use a probabilistic approach to it, probability and consequence. If you're using other types of risk analysis, that does work with it. It's just you have to convert to probability. And so that's how that's usually done. Another thing was, of course, the PMP itself, and we already saw an instance of talking about that. And then, of course, we do have that strong thing. So now all I have to do is take any of these analytical products like this work breakdown structure and just put it right into the place where it goes in the PMP. And so that's what the bottom right picture is showing. So of course, then I want to baseline the document as I go through and update it. As you know, the first plan doesn't survive. The plan doesn't survive first contact with the enemy. it's true in program management. You put together your best plan you can, and then 6 months later you're looking at going, I need to change this. And that's okay. That's the whole idea of having it in a tool like Innoslate. You can easily update it and change it and adjust it as you need to. Again, and have kept your baselines and track it that way and see what the changes are so you can understand where you might have problems. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about processes. And as a system engineer, I love my process. And as a program manager, oftentimes I love my process because I want processes that help me organize and manage and keep the system under control. Well, and if I'm a program manager, my system is the program. So why not? So we kind of coined this term model-based program management. And what we mean by that is we're saying we're going to create models of the project processes and other information and capture that information in the database and verify the models using simulation. So that's kind of that whole concept of model-based program management. The models generate all our plans and products and reports for the project. That's again a part of the goal is to, and we, by the way, look at documents as a model. So that's another thing. When you're looking at Innoslate, you're looking at information being portrayed in different ways. And one of the ways we portray information is looking like a document. So that's something oftentimes people don't, so maybe a nuance, but it's probably an important nuance. And also you can review the models, and that can be conducted, and we're going to talk about that model-based reviews that can tell you how well your project is progressing. We actually will often do this real time in our status meetings. We actually will take a timeline diagram or one of the documents and walk through that part of it to go through and say, where are we? And we can look at where we are and update the status in real time as a group. Say, yeah, that's a good play. That's where we are in the process. And of course, you can link your program management information now directly with your systems engineering and design information to better understand the overall cost schedule and performance of your project. And so this again, I think you'll find that this approach will make it much more rigorous and in a good way. Okay, so program management processes. So we have processes that we have here, technical processes in the middle there with the V diagram, and of course you can use any life cycle model you want, doesn't matter. But around it, we support during that entire process time with these program management processes, and they're all ongoing, and we have detailed processes for each and every one of these boxes. Now, I'm going to show you an eye chart of those. Don't expect you to read this, but we literally have these same processes. The common denominator again is that PMSE knowledge base. That's the key part of what we're doing with this. And if you want more detail on each one of these, I hate to tell you, go to my book, Real MBSE, Model-Based Systems Engineering using LML and Innoslate. It's on Amazon. Feel free to get a copy of that. It's fairly inexpensive, so it's not one of these $200 textbooks. It was meant to be at a reasonable price. So I think you'll find that it has details of each one of these processes and helps you walk through them. Feel free to take those and do what you want with them, adjust them, modify them for what you need, use them as you want to. We've been using them now for about 20 years, and they've been very effective. But the key is to model the processes. So you can take your process models and create a model for each one of them. We use the input outputs particularly to show what are we getting and what are we producing. So the outputs are basically our deliverables. And so you can track them that way and work it. I often have a deliverables table that I then see in my database view and use that to help me work with it and communicate it. In fact, on one contract recently, I would take a snapshot from that database view to show where we were in status of deliverables every month. So again, there are what nice ways you can use this to communicate with your customer. Anyway, so the process modeling here, taking that and again, take your existing processes. You can import those if you have them. If you use the Patra, it'll actually take a text-based kind of process and convert it to a diagram like this for you automatically. So we might add that capability at some point to Innoslate, but we're still refining it in Patra. Of course, new processes may have to be added to it for specific projects, or maybe you do some tailoring here. So, but this is a good way to help organize it, understand it, and really know where you're going with it. If you assign durations and start times to it, again, you can use the sidebar for that. So there's the start date time and a duration. Those were, by the way, this now works with the new task. I'm just showing you the action, using an action entity for this for simplicity. But you do have a task entity now under program management view, which has a lot more attributes, start, finish, a whole bunch of things that may be even better for you to use here for this. So I just happened to be the example I had, so I thought I'd use that. But we can ultimately update this to include tasks. You can allocate resources, that's people. The way we do that in the simulator now is when we add a cost of resources, we could do that as an asset, or you can do it through the actions. And so there's a couple ways to do that. And I think I did it with actions on this particular one. But you can use assets and tie it to the assets that way. And you run the simulators, get timelines, costs. You can look at load leveling, a whole bunch of things with it through the simulator. And again, using your work breakdown structure, you can create the hierarchy chart, which we saw earlier. Adding cost information. So a lot of people say, gee, well, adding cost information can be challenging. Well, but it really isn't, because what we do is we go to our database view, and database view can set it up like a table. So if you're used to more of a tabular entry kind of approach, you can use that. I have put distributions in here for the range of costs, because particularly in a proposal stage, you may have more of a range you're working with. Yeah, excuse me. And so, not rather a single cost point. So again, I have that for different categories of people here that I'm showing as an example. And so again, this is associating the task with the incurs relationship, which is incurs cost. And so, and once you have these tables the way you like them, you can save the query. And if you own the project, which usually probably you will be if you're project manager, you're gonna be the project owner of the Innoslate project, you can save the query for everybody. So that can be a project wide. And so anybody could see what's going on, click on one of the options and get what they need. Resulting discrete event and Monte Carlo results. So again, I can run those. I can again use the discrete event. I get a Gantt chart out of it directly that I could then produce and publish as my Gantt chart. I can track costs over time, things like that as you're working with it. And again, if you do put in the triangular distribution or some other distribution, I like triangular, by the way, because usually I can make an estimate of what's the least cost, what's the most cost, and what the mostly likely is going to be. So that's what the triangular distribution gives me. So that's kind of a nice way to use it. And then if I then run the Monte Carlo, I can get the range in terms of time and cost in particular. Well, two things as a program manager I'm mostly interested in. I am also interested in performance, but let's face it, we're kind of cost and schedule driven oftentimes. So that's what we're looking for. And so we're looking for that range. And you can see I have to decide, where do I want to tag my budget? I'm going to put my budget where I think, I can tell them you have to set expectations, right? So I'll be a little careful on both the schedule and the cost. But you can see that you can have pretty substantial range sometimes in that, and if that's the case, then that's kind of a measure of your risk. And so you're trying to understand that better and capture it with that knowledge. So when you start seeing things going off whack, you realize that there's other probabilities may be coming into play. Maybe something happened like major inflation, and all of a sudden now my cost to people has gone up significantly. I think a lot of us have experienced that just recently, and that's true, and that's just the reality of things. So you have to deal with that. And how am I going to mitigate that risk? Okay, so that's kind of a thumbnail. So how do I use Innoslate's program management view? Again, this is kind of a new view that we just brought in to the tool. I've been using the tool for program management for the entire 12 years, 10 years plus, I guess we've had the tool, and it's been very effective for me. By the way, I used Microsoft Project from version 1. So I was very familiar with Project and very comfortable in it. But when we had Innoslate and we started using it, I realized I didn't need Project anymore. I could do everything I needed in Innoslate. So project management dashboard. We added this in version 4.5. That was one of the major upgrades we made at that point. I think it was 4.5. 4.4. I don't know. They're all starting to run together to me now. We're going so fast with them. So this provides you a calendar view, so you can look at it. And by the way, the sample problem, we put the dates to be 2050, so that it wouldn't run out. So you could go see it and see upcoming dates and things like that. So if you do run the Lunar Rover sample problem now and go to this program management view, recognize you have to change the dates at the top, and you just click on that main thing, that March 2050, and you can change the year very quickly and easily. Let's see. And then, so what this does is it's showing me my key dates that I have coming up. And then I on the right panel is my upcoming dates as well. So I can kind of scroll through that list. Then you also have access to Kanban boards and Gantt Charts view, so you can go click on those, and you can also add widgets. So we actually have widgets that you can add for maybe some specific you want to go to, so you can go directly to that item. So in fact, if you scroll down in this particular example, we've actually added the hierarchy diagram chart, so you can see that, and that's kind of nice because that's my program chart that I'm looking for, my SOW. So that's that. Click on that one, and also a board progress diagram here as well on the right. So again, there's some nice things in that widgets now for you, and we'll be continuing to add things for you there. So you can use this in combination with the main dashboard and be able to do different types of management things with it. Going to the Kanban board, so the Kanban board view in the background there, that's the set of boards you have. So you might have multiples. Any complex project usually will have multiple Kanbans going on. The Kanban board's very easy to set up, by the way, with the columns are time, and the individual squares inside them are tasks. And so those are tasks that you can adjust and move and change, and all you have to do is drag one to another column if you want to change it. Click on it, you can change the attributes as well. So this is, again, very easy. And by the way, again, you've got another add widget option in here, so that you have some more things you can pin up specific Kanban boards if you got a lot of them. Gantt chart, similarly, again, this is very nice looking Gantt chart format output. It does have dependency lines. Dependency is a new ND class that we came up with for this chart. It allows us to do start to finish, finish to start, those kinds of things. So you can identify what those are, and then the lines will follow correctly for those instances. So again, it's starting to heading that path. We're starting to do the critical path analysis and things like that. We haven't fully got CPA in here yet, but that's coming. So those are things we're continuing to work on. Okay, conducting model-based reviews. So model-based reviews are something that a lot of people say is the holy grail of model-based systems engineering. And we've been doing it for quite a number of years, actually, using Innoslate. It is tool dependent. I will tell you, you do need a tool that can help you capture the information and work with it. So right now, our suggestions to you is to create your rubric. Okay, if you're not familiar with the rubric, it's your score sheet. It's what you want people to score against. And so those criteria, so you remember you have exit criteria in the NASA processes, you put those in there, for example. And maybe the entrance criteria too, so that people can then say, yeah, you're ready for the next phase. So again, so you can have multiple rubrics set up. And again, I would put those right in the documents view and then give people a link to that document. And if you're not familiar with Innoslate, it is all URL based. So all you have to do is give them the URL link to the specific document, and they can go right to it and start doing things right away. So if you've got reviewers who aren't very familiar with using a tool like Innoslate, they don't have to know much. They have to be able to read and look at a document, be able to click on things and add comments. Not a heavy lift. Not a lot of training is going to be required for your reviewers having them use this. And reviewer licenses are very inexpensive. And you'll see as we have some other things coming up with that as well. One of the things also I think you might want to be able to do is we have the ability to do cross-project relationships. What that means is you have different Innoslate projects, and there could be information from one project put into a master project, right? But the people who have access to that project, the project you're pulling the information from, are the only ones who can see it in the master project. If you're not authorized to see it in the other project, then if you're looking at the master, you'll get a redaction bar. And so that hides the information you don't want certain people to see. So again, you can give different reviewers access to different types of information, even though it's all done in one master document. They can only see what they are supposed to review. So again, that's another way to help you separate the information and make sure you don't have people doing something you don't want them to do. The other thing you can do is set up workflow. So one of the things that oftentimes is you're doing it at the document level, and we don't have a status bar on artifacts, which is our documentation entity class. So there's nothing, it's nothing to add that. So you can add a status there and then create a workflow at the artifact level, and your reviewers can be the people being notified or the permissions to be able to change, so you can see when it's ready. And so this is a way you can start creating what people call in-process reviews. Right now, in-process reviews always seem to be like just a snapshot in time, looking at something, but you could make it a continuous in-process review. This way, anytime a reviewer has time to go look at something, they can go look at it. They go, oh, this has changed. I need to go take a look at that. They get the notification of it. So again, so you can see now maybe you can apply different approaches than what you've done in the past. And so you can really leverage these tools to do things maybe in a new and better way. And that's really what we're hoping for you to do. So I see I've got a few minutes. So how about if I just show you a little bit inside the tool? But I do want you to go explore it yourself. And of course, you know, hopefully everybody knows how to sign up if you haven't already signed up and are already using Innoslate. It's very easy at innoslate.com. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So let me escape out of this. And here is the Manage Project view. And this is actually the same view I just was showing you in the slide form, but here it is in live. And so if I want to scroll down, I happen to have a lot of mouse tasks here. So it's quite a bit going on. And so if I want to see the whole thing, I've got to come down here to scroll down to get the bottom of it. So, and again, just had one in there. Let's go this one here, maybe. There we go. Okay, so it has different hierarchies that are there for that chart. And the way that widget was set up, you select the different widgets. And so you can put all kinds of information in here as well. So actually, I think I want to add more widgets now that I look at that list. We've just updated the dashboards in 4.6, by the way, so that they're all more consistent and more effective. So now again, just going to the Kanban boards, I can just click on this and go to the Kanban board view, select the Kanban board I care about. There it is. And then again, click on it and you can see it's a task entity. I'll show you the metadata tab. So it's a task entity. It shows me where it is in the statement of work, things like that. So there's a lot of different labels and stuff there. Attributes, you can see all the new attributes that are available here for that. Due dates, finish, assignees. Again, this is different people. You can select who you want on it. User, interesting. That's probably because it was previously imported from somebody else's name. Anyway, so again, adjust those as you need to. If you're ready to move it to the next thing, you just drag it over, say it's at the next level. So it's in the next phase. And you can then save that. I'll just cancel it though. I don't change it. By the way, this is that lunar rover sample problem that's in our sample problems now. If you don't know where that is, we'd be glad to show you how that works. Again, you can add more widgets here, but right now I think it's only the chart card itself. So you have to put a specific chart card you want, and we put that's various types of charts can be put on there. Again, that's something we probably will add more widgets as time goes on. So go back. And the Gantt charts, again, the view is here. And again, I can get these from the charts view as well, by the way. It's just a quick shortcut to this view. And there's the Gantt chart that we were looking at earlier. And again, if I look at this dependency line, if I click on the line, it's actually an entity itself. It's not just a line, right? This is sort of like a conduit is on the asset diagram, same idea. And so it has different things there. Again, you can add labels as you want to. And just simple descriptions. And the relationships are probably where the most interesting thing is. This is the connection relationships. Now, by the way, you can edit the dependency here as well. And this can then adjust the different start to finish, finish to start. So you can kind of decide what you want to do with that. So that's how you get that in there. Let's see, other things, the Gantt chart itself, you click on a bar, look at its attributes, and that includes percent complete. And these are all showing 100% complete. That's the shading. If I went back and said, no, this is really only 10% complete, you can see it's just shading a little portion of it. So otherwise, it's a solid bar. So that's, again, how we track, one of the ways we track status. And in fact, that's what I use a lot now for that status tracking activities. And you can see here some of the others that don't have the full status. Okay, so that's just some quick things there. Let me show you how to get to this. If you go to the main dashboard and go here to SPEC Innovations, this is my organization, go to the guided tour and select this lunar rover, Spectre lunar rover. This is actually a project we did last summer for the NASA Break the Ice Challenge, and for phase 1 of that, and we ended up with a full prototype of the lunar rover from that project. Okay, so let me go back here. Let's see. So other things to show with this very quickly. So I want to leave some time for questions. Let's see here. I don't have anything else up, so I don't think I want to go scrambling around looking for things. But again, to go through and find your documents, I believe we've got requirements documents here, examples. And again, this is trimmed down from what we ended up with our actual project. Well, actually, I could probably go to that actual project. If I go to the actual project, let's see, sample. Well, let me not do that because I'm just. Let me see if we got timeline diagrams or any other diagrams in here. I'm not sure what we were able to keep in. Yeah, so here's a timeline diagram example. And so here's where you get your milestones. And we came up with the idea of coloring milestones green when something was completed. So we use that a lot. And in fact, usually you would show that this all was green as you're going through that process. So it's a nice way to, again, use it this way. Again, similarly, this has that % complete here, and I can use that to help me track. And by the way, these aren't the same ones that were in the Gantt chart. So again, if I change it here, I change it there. So again, these are just ways to view the information. It's not anything else. Let's see, but then it adds these time milestones, which is really nice as well. A lot of people said, well, how do you add deliverables? I will add a line down here for deliverables, and yes, they're tasks then in that case, not IOs, but it is a nice way to track your deliverables as well. So we put the deliverables on the same chart a number of times. Actually, that I can show you in a real one. So here's a real project that we're working on. So, and as you come down, you can see your deliverables. So again, I'm tracking my deliverables and get % complete. Actually, that's 100%. That's been delivered. So those things are again helpful. Since it wasn't a bar, it just shows you don't realize it doesn't say 100%. So anyway, that's something. And then the other thing I would recommend is in database view, set up those queries I mentioned earlier. So you set up your different queries, so things like your task list, you track that, who's doing what, current issues, issue tracker. So again, lots of different ways to set up standard things that you're using for that. So just wanted to kind of hit that with you. Here's also, by the way, the model we built for this. And so this actually has details in there as well. So you can drill down into it. Again, this is built from the same information that was in the other diagrams. So these again are the same tasks elements that we had in the other diagrams. So that's the beauty of this. You build one and you have it for all the others. And so if I wanted to see the hierarchy chart from this, I just come over here and select hierarchy chart. There it is. So, and to adjust the hierarchy chart, if you're not familiar with it and you want to add different things to be seen with it, you can show or hide label attributes. So here, if I add attributes, and if I have a due date attribute, maybe I want to use, and status, maybe that's the two I want for this particular hierarchy, and there they are. So and these are tasks. This isn't. This is not cost. So that's why I use those variables. Let's see. So yeah, that little. If you're not familiar with the wrench has so many features with it. It also lets you set the levels you want, things like that. So if I want it, we want to see level 2. See that. Try doing that with Microsoft Project. Anyway, so there's just lots of things to help you do a better job of program management. And so I want to see if do we have any questions, Elizabeth? It's probably a good time to go to questions.
Thanks, Dr. Gam.
Let me quickly. Let me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to one of my last slide here. And just so the key is that this model-based program management can really help you do a better job of project planning and execution. I think you see it. This integration can really help you reduce cost, schedule, and improve performance, the quality of the project for everybody. You know, because nobody likes a project that's going bad, because it's never fun to be in one. If you develop executable processes and procedures up front, you're going to find that that helps you a lot in making sure they're executed, that quality of life works for you. Okay, so let's do quick Q&A.
And thanks, Dr. Dam. If you haven't done so, please send your questions to the panel on the right. You'll see on the panel on the right, one of the drop downs says questions. You can send your message privately and we'll get your question answered. We'll answer as many questions as we can before the time is up. Our first question is, do you have a roadmap for Innoslate?
Oh, yes, we do. So currently we just released 4.6 in June. A few weeks ago was the enterprise release. I think we did it was late May, we released 4.6. 4.7's under development. It's been kicked off. We're anticipating roughly, hopefully it'll be a Christmas present, if not a little sooner after that, but maybe even a little before. And we alternate between what we call bug releases and feature releases. So 4.7 was going to be a feature release. This 4.6 actually looked like it had a lot of features, but the focus was on bug fixes. We fixed hundreds of bugs in the tool, so it should be a lot cleaner, easier to use, more consistency. We did the dashboard upgrade as part of that consistency part as well, and to respond to some people's interests and needs. In 4.7, we have quite a bit of work going on in documents view. We're going to be updating that significantly. Test center. We're looking at SysML 2.0. We're kind of hoping we can get that in there. It's still under development, so we're kind of waiting to see if we're going to be able to get enough information in to be able to use it for that. We're not sure how other tool vendors are looking at that. We are up in the process, though, is updating all our SysML diagrams to 1.6, making sure they're completely compatible with 1.6. We'll see what the 2.0 diagram changes are. So far, we haven't seen any of those. Their focus seems to have been this whole, what's it called? Yeah, the focus has been on this new almost programming language interface to be able to create diagrams from. So we hope that's going to help interoperability a lot. So things like that are in 4.7. So we have lots of other stuff. And then again, 4.8 will probably be a bug release. 4.9, we're already planning things for 4.9, and 5.0 is being looked at and thought about. That's probably a couple years off, but it's something we already start thinking about and working towards. That'll have some kind of significant back-end framework change, I believe, is our plan for that. That's probably going to be more focused on scalability, enhancing that scalability and those kinds of problems. Next question.
We have a great question. Do you recommend separating or building the project management model in the same project as the system model?
It really depends on the complexity and who's doing it. With cross projects, you have the ability to create a master at any time. And so nothing hurts to have people separately working independently, and then whoever's orchestrating the overall picture, put it together into a master project. So it's really dependent upon the project itself and how complex it is and how many people are involved. What happens often for me is our project, we're a small company, so our projects are relatively small. So I find myself frequently wearing both hats. I'm the program manager and chief systems engineer on the project. So oftentimes I use the same database for it.
Our next question, is there a place for Innoslate users to discuss how to use the software and ask questions to each other?
Yes, we have quite an active LinkedIn site as well as Discord. So there's several those kinds of social media capabilities for that purpose. So yes, please use those as much as you can, as much as you want. Also feel free to contact our support people if you have questions and need help. That support is concluded with the tool. So we do make that available to everyone, including students. by the way. If you're a student and you're having problems, do let us know. We use that really helps us a lot. You'd be surprised. What it does for us is it helps us understand where you're having problems, and that helps us then find out how we can really improve the tool. So unless we get that dialogue with you, it's really hard for us to know. So we monitor the social media sites as well for that same information and mine them constantly. So so yes, please, any kind of feedback is always welcome.
What integrations are available?
Oh my! For design engineering integrations, we have STK, that's Systems Toolkit from ANSYS. It used to be AGI, it's now ANSYS product. And then of course we have MATLAB integration. We have GitHub integration for software, and we use that ourselves very effectively, and are expanding that capability significantly in the future. Then for project management, we do have output from the simulator to Microsoft Project. It actually will put out the project XML file. So that's one of the outputs from the Gantt chart that's available to you. What else do we have? Project management. The CSV import export, of course, is a very good way to move data back and forth between project management kinds of tools. Also, if you're doing things like wanting a feed from your ERP system, that's your enterprise resource planning system, that's often how you get your actual dollars. You'd use that probably as a CSV output and then import it into Innoslate there. And then that way you can do your tracking directly in Innoslate if you want.
Thank you, Dr. Dam.
Did I get them all?
You got them all. We'd like to thank everyone again for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our How Do You MBSE series. As a reminder, we will be following up with you very soon to send you a link to the recording and the presentation slide deck. We have a special webinar coming up on July 26th, Ask Me Anything with Dr. Stephen Dam. You'll have the opportunity to ask Dr. Stephen Dam any and all questions you have. You can ask any set of questions you have about systems engineering, Innoslate, Apache, lifecycle modeling language, SysML, Ironbrink, or even comic books. We hope you can join us for this fun and educational event on July 26th at 11 o'clock Eastern. Also, if you are coming to Nkosi, come say hi to us at booth C8, pick up SPEC Innovations swag, and get yourself a cup of Starbucks coffee. Hope to see you there. We also encourage you to visit our website, check out our books and our blog, as well as connect with us on social media. That concludes today's presentation. Thank you again for your attendance, and we hope to see you again at our next webinar in July. Please enjoy the rest of your day.